Alright, I just wanted to do a quick, hopefully quick, little review video over these learning targets because obviously your formative is tomorrow on Thursday. Okay, so I just wanted to give you a little bit, make sure we're all ready because I don't feel like we're ready. Some of you are in, you're still on Christmas break, I think, winter break. So anyway, let's just kind of go through. I'm just going to kind of go through the notes. You don't have to have your notes out. You can just watch. Okay. The first target, I can explain that a fraction is out of 100. That's pretty easy. 15% just means 15 out of 100. So 15 pieces if there were 100 pieces. Okay. Let's go on to number 2, learning target 2 here. Let me zoom in a little bit. You can see to turn a percent to a decimal. Okay, we have the percent 60%, something like that. We know that that's the fraction 60 out of 100. And then we know that all fractions are division problems. Numerator divided by denominator gives us 0.60 or 0.6. Either way, you could have 0.6 or 0.60. That's all you do. Now on this same front, if I asked you to turn this percent into a fraction, you would just do this, and then you could simplify it. And remember, when we're simplifying, you're going to do 60, and then you can use the ABC button, 100, to simplify that, and you're going to get 3/5. Okay? So that's exactly how you do it. So I just showed you how to turn a percent into both a decimal, and I showed you how to simplify the fraction. So it's both because you can make them out of 100. Now, turning decimals into percents, here, we know that when it's a decimal, you can think of it as a proportion. Okay, it's a regular number. It's just a decimal, which means it has a denominator of 1 because there's no percent sign or anything. We need it to have a denominator of 100 because we're turning it into a percentage. So you say, okay, what am I doing here? Well, I'm multiplying by 100. So what am I doing here? That's 13%. So that'd be 13%. Some of you just might remember that when you're going from regular number to percent, the decimal goes 1, 2. When it goes from a percent to a regular number, we go 1, 2 this way. But I would just rather, like that one there, 4%, just do 4 over 100. Every fraction is a division problem, and then do 0.04. Okay? So that's that. And then turning fractions into percents, I just showed you how to do that. Okay, if I had a fraction, let's just say 2/5. Every fraction is a division problem. So 2 divided by 5 would give me 0.4. Then remember to turn a regular number into percent. We're going to multiply by 100, which would make it 40%. Okay? The other way you could do this is you could just take your fraction like this, 2/5, and you could say, okay, that's my fraction, but I need my fraction to have a denominator of 100. And then you could cross multiply and divide like that too. Okay? And you get 40. Okay? So it doesn't matter really how you do it. So that's that. I think I hit them all. There. So that's learning target 2. I think you guys are doing pretty well with that. Okay? Learning target 3, I can find the percent of a number. Just to recap real quick here. Once again, I don't want this to be a long video. I just want to make sure we're all clear on some things. Okay? If there's anything on here that you're struggling with and you just don't understand where I'm getting these things, you can always go back to the Schoology and watch the Learning Target 3 video or the Learning Target 2 video, whatever you think you need. Okay? Now, 43%. Remember, that's got to become a decimal or a regular number. Okay? And there's 2 ways to turn that into that. Okay? You could do this 2 ways, so I'll write it in 2 ways. First way is you could just take the decimal and go 1, 2. Now, I knew that because 43% would be the fraction 43. Whoops. Maybe 43 over 100. You're right over here. 43 over 100, and then divide it, and you're going to get 0.43. Okay? That's 0.43. Whoops. Didn't want to write that there. Sorry. 0.43, so we got to turn that to a regular number. Of means multiply times 100. Okay? And when you do that, you're going to get 43. Okay? 43% of 100 means 43 out of 100. That's just what it means. Okay, the other way you could do it is you could just leave it in fraction form. 43 over 100 times 100. And then you could just use the ABC button. So you would do 43 ABC 100 times 100. You can do it either way. Either way is fine on that. So those, I think you guys are going to be fine with those. Okay, learning target 4. I'll skip this. Let's see, go to 4. Okay. I skipped a page here or something. Okay, 1 second. There's learning target 3. There's learning target 4. These are some real world problems. Okay. Let's go on the next page. Here we go. Here's learning target 4. I know you can't read it. I'm sorry. It just says I can model what a percent means. Okay. Now these I think we're good at. I mean, these are easy for you guys. There are 100 little squares. Each little square, remember, represents 1%. 1%. It also equals 0.01, and it also equals the fraction 1 over 100. Okay. Pretty easy there. You guys didn't struggle with that at all. Okay, so now I'm going to go to learning. I need to go to the strip diagrams. We need to talk about a couple of those because you guys, there are still some of you struggling majorly with this. Okay, this is what you guys need to know. This is what I think, what I've figured out is what the biggest struggle is. You guys don't know this, I don't think. I think this is what you need to memorize. This is not going to be provided to you on the test. All of this. Your strip diagrams can only be split into 4 things. That's it. You can't break them in any other way. Okay, so when I do that, I know that I can break it into 2 sections of 50%. Oh, man. I can break it into 2 sections of 50%. Okay. I can break it into 4 sections of 25%. Okay. Or I can break it into 5 sections of 20%. Okay, or the last one here, I won't bore you, but it's just 10% sections. All of those always equal 100%. So let's go practice. Okay, I'm going to go here. Start on this one. Once again, I know we've already done this, but you guys need to get this. Okay, now, I know that this entire strip always equals 100%. And I always know that it's going to equal like an actual amount. I don't know what that actual amount is, whether it's money, whether it's, you know, number of students, number of boys. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but I just know it's going to equal something like that. So now you got to read it. Okay? Andrew is given an allowance of $20. Okay? 40% of the allowance was used to go to the movies. So right when I see 40%, you guys should all be thinking, okay, 40%. Go back to this page real quick. Which one of these would allow me to get to 40%? Would I be able to tell where 40% is there? No, I mean I could guess. It's somewhere about right there. Right? But that's not the point. You can't guess it. You have to be able to figure out where 40% is based on your sections. This one here, so this one wouldn't work. Let me get X that one out. This one here, 40%, somewhere right there. But again, we can't tell specifically where it's at. All the pieces need to be the same size. So that one's out. This one, I see 20%, I see 40%. Okay? There I can figure out exactly that 2 sections is representing 40%. This one, it would be 4 sections represent 40%. So I could use either one of these 2. May as well just use this one, but you could use this one. Doesn't matter. Okay, so I'll go back to the problem, zoom in. Okay, so I'm going to break it into 5 20% sections. Okay, 20%, 20%, 20%, 20%, 20%, and 20%. Okay, now's when we got to figure out, okay, are they giving me, with this $20, you have to ask yourself, is that a part or is that a whole? What are we talking about there? What is it giving us? And that's where you just got to really be a good reader. And this is where maybe some of you may struggle a little bit, but hopefully I can give you the skills to become a little bit better at it. So I look at it. Andrew was given an allowance of $20. So he was given $20. Okay, that's fine. Now we got to read. 40% of this allowance was used to go to the movies. Okay, so that means this 20 is how much his mom and dad gave him. 40% was used at the movies. So when I look at this strip, did he spend all of his money at the movies? No. He only spent this much, 20, 40. He spent only 40% at the movies. Okay? So 40% at the movies. I know that the entire strip is representing the $20 that he, it's a dollar sign. Okay, that $20 is representing his total amount. Okay? So we got to take the $20 and we need to divide it into the amount of groups that are there. We need to divide it by 5. That tells me that each one of these sections is representing $4. Okay? So 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20. That's what it all represents. 20% of his money is $4. So it wants to know, since he only used 40% at the movies, we want to know specifically, how much money is that? Well, it's these two sections right here. That's 20 plus 20 is 40%. So this answer would be $8. He spent $8 at the movie theater. Okay, now let's do this one real quick. Lynn is saving money to buy a computer. She saved $150. Okay, it's important information. Okay, before I go any further, I need to probably go ahead and do this, right? Now, before you guys get crazy, this is where you guys want to start just saying, oh, 150, I'm going to put 150 there. You guys got to be careful. You can't start putting that there until we've determined, is that the part or is that the whole? That's the step you have to take. It says she saved $150. It says this is only 60% of the amount that she needs. How much money does she need to buy the computer? So first thing here, actually like the second or third thing, I see that 60%. And then I go back to this and I say, okay, which one would show me where 60% is? Okay, and I look at that one and I say, oh, 20, 20, 20 makes 60. You could also use this one down here, this one. 6 sections of 10 would make 60. But let's just go ahead and split it into 20s. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's going to be 20%, 20%, 20%, 20%, 20%. Okay? Now, we've done this. We know that we can tell exactly where 60% is because it says it right there. 20, 40, 60. I know where 60% is because that is exactly how I split it up. I know that 3 sections represent 60%. Now, let's reread. This is where, again, I'm repeating myself. Every test is a reading test. Lynn is saving money to buy a computer. She has saved $150. Okay? That's how much she saved. So she saved $150. This, meaning the $150, is only 60% of the amount that she needs. How much money does she need to buy the computer? So basically, this is, the whole thing does not equal $150. This, from right here to right here, equals $150. Because she doesn't save enough. She didn't save all the money yet. She's only saved a part of it, $150. If it said this is 100% of the amount she needs, she would need $150 to buy the computer. But she's only saved 60% of what she needs. Okay? So, we need to figure out how much money does she need to buy the computer. Okay, so we're looking for a total amount. We're trying to answer this. So whereas up here, we were given this, we had to find a part because we were given a whole. Now it's the opposite. We are given the whole, or I'm sorry, we're given the part here, and we're being asked for the whole. So $150 in these 3 sections. So what we got to do is we got to take that $150 and we got to split it into the 3 groups that it belongs to. So $150, we need to divide it by 3. We are going to see that that is $50 per 20% section. 50, 50, 50. Okay, and since they're all exactly the same size section, I know that this has to be 50 and this has to be 50. Okay, now once again we're looking for the total. So now we're going to go through here and we're saying, okay, that's part of it, that's part of it, that's part of it, that's part of it, and that's part of it. I need to add all of those total amounts of money up to get my total, which is $250. Okay? So if I ask the question, how much more money does she need? How much does she need in addition to 150? You would just use what's in green here. Whoops, sorry. You would just use that. She needs $100 more. Okay? So that's 2 strip diagrams. Go back and watch Learning Target 4 if you're still confused. Okay? Now let's practice a couple of these. These part, I can find the part or I can find the whole questions. Okay, I'm just going to skip through a couple of them. Again, we've already done some of these, but I'm going to practice them again. Okay, we start with our proportion. This is what our proportion looks like. Remember, part to whole equals percent over 100. Okay? You guys seem to do really well with these once we practice, but let's do a couple more to practice here. A group of students are trying out for the soccer team. So a big group. We don't know how many yet. Of that group, of these students, 22 of them are 7th graders. If 55% of the students trying out are 7th graders, how many students are trying out in all? Now, I told you way back when we did this, I said always identify the percent, because that's the easy one. And then it's all about seeing the other number that's there, which is 22. And you just have to determine, okay, is that number going to go with the part, or is that number going with the whole? Okay, remember, read it again if you need to. 55% of the students trying out are 7th graders. So I'm going to put in parentheses that this 55% is representing the 7th graders only. Okay, so let's go back and figure out what 22 is now. Of those students, 22 are 7th graders. So the 22 is not the whole. It is not here because it's saying that a bigger group of students. It's asking how many students are trying out in all. That's asking for this. That's what we don't know. We don't know how many. All we do know is that there are 22 7th graders trying out. And notice, labels always stay the same. 7th, entire group of students on the bottom. Okay, and that's a question mark, not a 7, by the way. My pen's just messing up here. Okay, and then from here, you can just simply take this, cross multiply, and then divide your 55. Okay. These ones here, real quick, are is over of questions. Part to whole equals percent over 100. But remember, so part to whole, percent over 100, but just remember one thing. I always said you can use the word is and the words of just to help clue you a little bit on these only. Don't use is and of here. Don't use it here. Don't use it here. Only on these type of problems. So obviously the percent's always the one you want to identify, 15. Now, 435 is 15% of what number? So that means we are looking for the of what number. This is the question. What is the of? So that means 435 is the part. Okay? Okay? Here's a different one now. Okay? Just like this, we always start right here. Part to whole equals percent over 100. There are 180 students going on a class trip. Okay, of those students, 40%, I'm going to go ahead and put 40 in because that's an important piece of information. 40% are boys. So again, I'm going to put in parentheses the word boys just to help me out, just to help me. Okay, because I know if I'm talking about boys there, then this is going to have to be boys as well. So it wants to know how many students on the trip are boys. So this right here is exactly what we're looking for. This is what we are looking for. Okay, so that means this 180 students is representing the entire people that went on the trip. Okay, once again, you can just cross multiply and you divide. All right, now going back to Learning Target 4 here real quick. If I went back here and I just checked the 2 that we did here, you can always check these with a proportion too. Okay, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, if I go up here, I'll do this Andrew question real quick. I'm going to start with my proportion. It's percent over 100 on this side. My pen is freezing up here, sorry. And it's part to whole. Okay, the percent is given right there, 40%. And then I just have to identify this piece of information. Is it the part of the whole? 40% of his allowance was used to go to the movies. How much money was spent on the movies? This is what we're trying to figure out, the part. So then 20 goes here, and there you go. Okay, cross multiply, divide by 100. Same thing here. Use your proportions. Part over whole equals percent over 100. Okay. Look at it and say, okay, what's the percentage that's given? 60% is given. Okay. You say, okay, what's it asking for? Is it asking for the part of the whole? It's giving you that she has saved $150 and that this is only 60%. So that means 60% saved. So this must be the actual amount saved, which is 150. We're trying to find the whole. All right, now let's practice learning target number 8. Okay? All right. So, the actual food amount is this amount right here. So you start right there. $65.70. That's how much your drinks and food cost. That's it. Okay? Now we've got to be able to calculate both a tip and a tax amount. Okay? Now I'm going to flip-flop these just real quick, because you're going to, on the test, it always goes tax then tip. So this shouldn't say this. So I'll just get rid of them. And this should say tax, 6%, and then you find the tip, which is 6%, or I'm sorry, 15%. Okay? The whole point here is you have to figure out what 6% of that is, first of all. That's the first thing you've got to do. You've got to figure out your tax amount. So you've got to do 6% of 65.70. Okay? First thing you got to do is you got to turn that into a decimal. Okay? Remember, 6% is the fraction 6 out of 100. All fractions are division problems. 6 divided by 100 equals 0.06. 6 hundredths. 6 hundredths. Okay? So this has got to become 0.0. My pen works. 0.06. So, what's up? Okay, so this is going to become, so I'm trying to write 0.06. Of means multiply, 65.70. Okay, so you just got to do that math problem. So 0.06 times 65.70 equals $3.94. Now it actually equals 3.942. Remember, we always round our money to the nearest pennies. Okay? Pennies are the hundredths here. So we look, is that closer to 394 or 395? That would equal $3.94. That amount right there is my tax. Okay, that's my tax amount. So I'll try to color code this a little bit. In yellow up here, this is my food and drinks, but I'll just write food. Food is $65.70. My tax amount is $3.94. Now I'm going to add those together. So $65.70 plus $3.94 is $69.64. $69.64. Okay. Put this in yellow, I guess. And that is both the food and tax. Those are added together. Food and tax. Okay? Now we've got to add on our tip, because when you get your bill, whenever you see your bill, you get it, when your parents get it, at the bottom, they get a total amount. That's what they would see, $69.64. That's food and tax included. So that's the new amount we're working with. Now we got to figure out a tip amount. So we're going to go down here, take 15% of my food and tax total, which is $69.64. Same process we did here. We've got to turn that to a decimal, which is 0.15. Remember, it's just a fraction, 15 over 100. So 15 divided by 100 is 0.15. Of means multiply, 69.64. Okay, we do the problem. 0.15 times 69.64. Oh, shoot. 0.15. It is, this is what it gives me right here, 10.446. If I were rounding that to pennies, is that closer to 10.44 or 10.45? It would round up to $10.45. Okay? So my tip amount for my waiter or waitress is $10.45. Okay? So now in green, that is just my tip amount. So now I've got to take my food, my food and tax, and I need to add it to my tip. So the number here for food and tax is right here, $69.64, plus my tip amount of $10.45 gives me 69.64 plus 10.45 is $80.09. $80.09. That is the total amount. That right here, whoops, $80.09. That includes food, tax, and the tip.